The rain had been falling since morning, the kind that soaked into shoes and spirits alike. When the little girl tugged at her mother's worn sleeve and whispered words that would quietly shatter a stranger's life. "Do you have an expired cake for my daughter?" They were said without drama, without tears. Just raw honesty, carried by hunger and hope. The woman stood at the back door of a bakery, her eyes lowered, her pride already spent long before the question left her lips. She didn't know that just a few steps away, inside a black luxury car parked across the street, a man who owned more than he could ever use was hearing every single word. And in that moment, surrounded by wealth, yet hollow inside, the millionaire felt something crack open that money had never been able to touch. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. The woman's name was Amina, and life had been slowly shrinking around her for years. Once, she had dreams that stretched far beyond the narrow streets she now walked every day. She had imagined birthdays filled with laughter, candles glowing on cakes that smelled of sugar and vanilla, and her daughter clapping with excitement. But reality had stripped those dreams down to bare survival. Her husband had died 2 winters ago in a factory accident, leaving behind debts, unanswered questions, and a silence that never left their small rented room. Since then, Amina had worked wherever she could, cleaning houses, washing dishes, sometimes standing all day only to be told she'd be paid next time. That day was her daughter Sarah's 7th birthday, and all she wanted was something sweet to mark it, even if it was something the world had already decided was no longer good enough. Sarah waited a few steps behind her mother, clutching a small plastic doll with one missing eye. She didn't complain, didn't cry. She had learned too early how fragile her mother already was. When Amina asked the bakery worker about an expired cake, her voice trembled just slightly, enough to reveal the weight she carried. The worker hesitated, torn between policy and pity. But before he could answer, the bakery manager shook his head. Unsold cakes were thrown away. Rules were rules. Amina nodded, thanked them softly, and turned away, her shoulders drooping as if she'd expected nothing else. Across the street, inside the car, sat Imran Halim, a man whose name opened doors and silenced rooms. He had built an empire from nothing, or at least that's what the magazines said. What they didn't say was how lonely success could be. Imran had money, power, and influence, but his life felt like an echo chamber, filled with meetings, contracts, and empty celebrations. That morning, he had been sitting in the car, waiting for a call that would decide the fate of another business acquisition, when his attention drifted to the bakery. He watched the woman approach, saw the hesitation in her steps, and heard her question through the slightly open window. The words struck him harder than any financial loss ever had. For a moment, Imran did nothing. He told himself it wasn't his place, that he couldn't save everyone, that stepping in would only complicate things. But as the woman walked away, holding her daughter's hand, he noticed how the child tried to smile, pretending everything was fine. That smile reminded him of someone he hadn't thought about in years, his younger sister, who had once smiled the same way when they were children and had nothing but hope to get them through the day. She had died young, and Imran had buried that grief under layers of ambition and wealth. He stepped out of the car before his mind could stop him. The rain soaked his tailored coat, but he barely noticed. He called out to Amina, his voice steady yet unsure. She turned, startled, instinctively pulling Sarah closer. When Imran spoke, he didn't introduce himself, didn't mention who he was. He simply asked if it was her daughter's birthday. Amina nodded, embarrassed, her cheeks flushing. She apologized for being a bother, for asking something inappropriate, for existing in a world that had no space for her need. Imran listened, really listened, something he hadn't done in a long time. He walked them back into the bakery, ignoring the surprised looks from the staff. This time, there were no questions about expired cakes. He asked for the best cake they had, then more candles, balloons, pastries, anything that could turn a forgotten birthday into a memory worth holding on to. Sarah's eyes widened, disbelief mixing with cautious joy. Amina tried to refuse, her pride resurfacing in a shaky voice. But Imran gently insisted. He told her that sometimes help wasn't charity, it was connection. A reminder that people still saw each other. That should have been the end of it. A kind act. A generous moment. A story that would warm hearts and fade away. But it wasn't. Imran couldn't walk away after that. He offered them a ride home, then listened as Amina spoke about her life, her struggles, and the quiet strength it took to keep going every day. Each word chipped away at the walls Imran had built around himself. He realized how disconnected he had become from the very people he once dreamed of helping when he started his journey. In the weeks that followed, Imran couldn't stop thinking about Amina and Sarah. He arranged for Amina to have steady work, not as a favor, but as an opportunity, training her for a position in one of his companies. He ensured Sarah was enrolled in a good school, provided healthcare, and most importantly, dignity. Amina didn't become dependent. She became empowered. She worked hard, learned fast, and slowly rebuilt the life she thought had been lost forever. At the same time, something inside Imran changed. He began visiting his businesses, not just to check profits, but to understand the people behind the numbers. He started programs for employees in need, scholarships for children like Sarah, and support systems for widows like Amina. The man who once measured success in millions now measured it in smiles, stability, and second chances. Years passed, and Sarah grew into a confident young girl who never forgot that rainy day outside the bakery. She remembered the fear, the hope, and the kindness that altered her path. On her 18th birthday, she stood on a stage, giving a speech at a charity event organized by Imran's foundation. She spoke about dignity, about how one moment of compassion could rewrite an entire future. Imran watched from the audience, tears in his eyes, realizing that the greatest investment he had ever made wasn't in a company or a building, but in a human life. Just before this story ends, we'd love to hear from you. Comment below what this story made you feel, or share a moment when kindness changed your life. Your words might inspire someone else more than you realize. As the night ended and applause filled the hall, Imran reflected on that single question that had started it all. A question born from desperation, answered by empathy, and echoed through countless lives. He understood now that wealth wasn't about what you could buy, but about what you could change. And somewhere in the quiet corners of the world, there were still people asking for expired cakes. Not because they wanted less, but because life had taught them to expect it. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion still matters in a world that often forgets, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to channel name. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive, reaching hearts that are waiting for hope.